Hey, what's up, folk? I had the day off today, so I figured I'd get a pretty good bench workout in. And I did 285 pounds for 4 reps downstairs. And, that's not great, but I just recently recovered from a pretty severe bout of bicep tendonitis. It's getting a little bit better now, so I feel good just being able to bench again, even if it's a relatively light weight for what I'm normally able to do. I have done 300 pounds for 4 reps before, so 285 pounds isn't great, but I feel that I'm really starting to get back into the swing of things. So I'm happy about that because the bench is everybody's favorite lift, but that's because I'm a bro. But anyways, on to the subject of hand. We're talking about SARMs today, selective androgen receptor modulators, and what I think about them, how they relate to hair loss, how they relate to just performance enhancement goals, and just let's just go over them real quick. So two of the more popular ones are Osterin, and that seems to be more of a cutting drug, and there's also Ligandrol, which is a stronger one. That seems to be more for bulking. Now, what I'm talking about as far as like which one's stronger, which one's weaker, that's based purely on just anecdotes because this is an experimental chemical research drug. You can acquire it through chemical research websites. It's legal to own them, but it's not legal to use them. So we just have to rely on people's own personal experiences with them. And I'm not saying anecdotes are worthless. I mean, if enough people say something, if enough people make a claim, I'll eventually start to take it seriously. And in the case of SARMs, it seems like they do have some benefits, but whether or not those benefits outweigh the risk is another question. And in my opinion, ultimately, I do not think they are. So going over some of the benefits of SARMs, they don't seem to be as side effect heavy as steroids. Most specifically, they don't seem to affect the androgen receptors outside of just the skeletal muscle tissue. So you may think, okay, that's great. So that means that I'm only going to get benefits and I'm not going to get any kind of side effects because it's not going to affect the androgen receptors in the prostate, or more importantly, in my opinion, the hair follicles. So if somebody's concerned about hair loss like myself, for instance, they may think, okay, SARMs are a viable alternative because they're going to give me some steroid-like benefits, but they're not going to give me hair loss. And, that may be true to an extent, but at the same time, it just doesn't seem like SARMs are very powerful or useful enough to be worth trying, in my opinion, especially since they do seem to still have some steroid-like side effects. Now, if SARMs were completely side effect-free, or if they were very, very minimal, let's say maybe they raised my LDL cholesterol a little bit, I would probably consider using them. However, they have more pronounced steroid-like side effects that I don't think would make them worthwhile because they're not side effect-free enough that you can use them on their own, at least at larger doses, and I would want to use them at larger doses. I'm talking about maybe 35 milligrams with Osterin. That's what's considered a large dose. It seems like I'd have to use them at larger doses in order to get maximum benefits out of them, and at larger doses, it seems like they are still suppressive. A lot of people have reported testicular shutdown, or at least severe suppression as a result of using them, and that means that I'd probably have to rely on post-cycle therapy drugs such as Clomid and not Nolvadex. I mean, the reason why I don't say Nolvadex is because Nolvadex is more about preventing an estrogen rebound, and since SARMs are not a drug that can aromatize like testosterone, I don't think that would be necessary. But if it does cause testicular shutdown, you'd probably need Clomid afterwards in order to recover as quickly as possible. And additionally, you may even want to consider something like HCG, human chorionic gonadotropin. Although human chorionic gonadotropin, I haven't used it. I've never used steroids before, but I know it's a pain in the ass to use. You have to put it in individual needles. You have to refrigerate it. It goes bad really quickly. It can be hard to acquire. So I mean, it's something you'd want. And you have to inject yourself frequently too, subcutaneously. So it's not something I'd want to have to deal with, especially considering the strength benefits of SARMs just don't seem to be that great. It seems that people who do use it, maybe they'll put on maybe 15 to 20 pounds onto their bench press or so, and that's not bad, especially considering especially for somebody who's been lifting for a long time and they've gotten some of those diminishing returns. But compared to something like testosterone, the benefits don't even come close. I mean, I think a lot of people underestimate just how powerful of a drug testosterone is. Testosterone is literally the most anabolic substance on the planet. I mean, it doesn't matter what your strength goals are or what your performance goals are, testosterone will help you. Using let's say a basic testosterone only cycle, 500 milligrams per week of testosterone cypionate or anathenate, that's going to give you a substantial amount of strength, a substantial amount of size, and it's going to improve your hematocrit level. So even if you're an endurance athlete, you're going to have an increased level of just natural erythropoietin in the body, and that's going to cause an increased production of red blood cells in the red marrow of the bones, so that will improve cardiovascular endurance. So just anything you can imagine that could be improved in terms of athletics will be improved if you use something like testosterone. So yeah, testosterone has more side effects. It can cause hair loss, it can cause like prostate problems, it can cause acne. However, we know a lot about testosterone. We know a lot about the detrimental side effects of it. So that means that we can plan our cycles accordingly, and we can use other chemicals to help negate some of the side effects of those drugs. So if your androgens are nice and fresh and you're really thinking about leaving Nattyville, then you might as well go with the best stuff right there, since at least you know you can use other things to help negate the side effects. Now, there's no guarantee that, say, for example, using dutasteride and RU58841, which is probably like the strongest hair loss prevention cycle you can use, will stop the negative side effects of steroids, but you do know that it may help a little bit, especially if like finasteride is good enough to suppress your body's own natural production of testosterone. I mean, of DHT enough to prevent hair loss. I mean, use something a little bit stronger like dutasteride and RU58841 may be good enough right there. However, like you're going to get severe benefits from testosterone, so you may like decide that, like, you know, having to use all these cycle support drugs may be worth it. And I think having to go through like a post-cycle therapy and using human chorionic gonadotropin, that's such a big pain in the ass that I don't think it would be worth it unless I got a substantial benefit out of the drug. And from what it seems so far, SARMs just don't seem powerful enough. They seem almost like a strong creatine, and that's just not good enough for me to want to have to risk my reproductive health in order to get the benefits out of it. It's just not good enough, especially considering that there's so many more beneficial drugs out there. But you know, for me personally, I mean, I think that having hair is so important. I wouldn't risk it, even if it like meant putting a severe amount of muscle and strength onto my physique. It's just not worth it. I think that hair is just absolutely essential for male aesthetics. It's what frames the face right there. So I'd rather be a slightly muscular person with hair than be somebody who's bald with a severe amount of muscle. However, if worse came to worse and I did lose all my hair, then I'd probably be much more amenable to the idea of using PEDs, and especially like, but if I were to use PEDs, it would be the stuff that I know works really, really well, and the stuff that I know has been studied long enough so that I can plan my cycle accordingly. So that's just my opinion right there. SARMs, I wouldn't use them, but if you want to go ahead and use them, go ahead. But just know that they're not going to be as useful as other performance enhancement drugs, and that they're still going to have some testosterone-like side effects. All right, well, thank you for watching. Take care.